Welcome back to the Deep Dive.
Great to be here.
Today we're diving deep into just one source.
Yeah.
It's a review of Gears of War, Reloaded, specifically the PlayStation 5 version.
Right.
And our mission really is to unpack what this single review tells us. What are the key insights, the important details about this specific version?
Exactly. We're not just listing features, are we? We want to understand the reviewer's actual experience. What did they find significant about this remake on the PS5?
Okay, so let's get into it. The reviewer starts off by calling it a heartfelt tribute to the original. That sounds like a pretty positive opening.
It really does. It immediately suggests it's more than just a simple port, They talk about how it uses the, quote, muscle of Unreal Engine 5.
Which is that powerful graphics engine.
Yeah, exactly. And the precision of the DualSense controller, which is, unique to the PS5 with its feedback. And the review says this mix makes the game feel, quote, nostalgically familiar and thrillingly new.
That's the sweet spot they're aiming for, isn't it? Old and new. So the core story, Sarah, Locust, Marcus, and Dom, that's all the same. The review confirms.
Yep. The basic plot, the grim journey, that remains intact. But here's where it gets interesting. The reviewer felt it was actually more intimate this time around.
More intimate. How so? What makes it feel different?
Well, they point to richer character animations, more detailed facial models. Apparently the cutscenes have more, quote, cinematic gravitas?
So it's not just clearer visuals, it's how the characters look and act that's enhanced.
Precisely. Better performance capture, crisper voice acting, it all adds up. The reviewer explicitly says these things made them genuinely care about the Brotherhood more.
Wow.
And that the dark story, quote, resonates even more deeply. So it shows how tech upgrades aren't just superficial, they can actually boost the emotional impact.
Okay, I get that. Seeing more subtle emotion on a character's face could definitely pull you in more.
Yeah.
All right, let's shift gears to gameplay. The classic cover-based shooting. Still good.
Oh yeah. The review says it's as satisfying as ever. The core mechanics hold up.
But are there tweaks? Refinements?
There are subtle ones, but noticeable according to the review. Things like smoother sliding from cover to firing, a more satisfying weight to the chainsaw bayonet on the Lancer.
Ah, the Lancer. Iconic.
Totally. And they also mention enemies reacting with, quote, newfound ferocity, so maybe a bit tougher or at least more responsive.
Okay. Now this is where the PS5 specifics really come in, right? The DualSense controller. The review mentions clever introduction of adaptive triggers.
Yes, and this is a big deal for this version. The adaptive triggers, they can push back, create resistance.
Right.
And the example they give is perfect. Pulling the trigger on the heavy Lancer rifle apparently needs more physical pressure from your finger than popping off shots with the nimble Nasher shotgun.
Oh, that's cool. So you actually feel the difference between the weapons in your hands.
Exactly. It's that tactile feedback. The review really emphasizes this, saying it heightens the sense of immersion. They go so far as to say it made the PS5 version worthwhile just for that feeling every pull and recoil in your fingertips.
That's quite a statement. It suggests these console-specific features, like the triggers, aren't just gimmicks, but can genuinely change how you connect with the game.
Yeah, it's moving beyond just looking better. It's about feeling different, more involved.
Absolutely. So speaking of looking better, visuals. We touched on Unreal Engine 5. How does the review say the PS5 shows off its power?
It says the console's considerable muscle is on full display. They use some evocative descriptions, like rusted corridors dripping moisture, distant swamps shimmering under orange sunsets.
Nice imagery.
Yeah, and gleaming bullet trails during fights, the kind of atmospheric detail UE5 is known for.
And what about performance? Usually you get options on these new consoles.
You do. The review mentions 2 modes. There's a performance mode aiming for a rock-solid 60 frames per second.
So super smooth gameplay. Good for fast action.
Right, makes movement and those executions feel razor sharp, as they put it.
And the alternative, Fidelity Mode.
Fidelity Mode, yeah. That's where you get the extra eye candy. They mention marveling at ray-traced reflections, seeing the environment mirrored realistically on the COG soldier's shiny ceramite armor.
Ah, the reflections.
And the flicker of flares during firefights looking extra intense. So you're likely trading some of that 60 FPS smoothness for these advanced lighting and reflection effects.
Makes sense. The usual trade-off. Did the review mention any visual hiccups at all?
Just one minor thing, a small gripe, they called it. Apparently, loading times between chapters can sometimes be occasionally longer than on Xbox Series X.
Oh, interesting comparison. But was it a deal breaker?
Doesn't sound like it. The reviewer immediately follows up saying it's brief enough not to break the overall flow, so a slight pause maybe, but not disruptive.
Okay, good to know. So visuals sound strong. What about audio? The review calls it another feather in Reloaded's cap.
Sound design is huge for Gears atmosphere, right? That gritty, intense feeling. The review highlights things like the heart-stopping roar of a swarm drone.
Yeah, those things are terrifying.
And just the environmental sounds, like the thrum of heavy boots on metal walkways, really grounding you in the world.
And the DualSense plays a role here too, not just the triggers.
Yes. They mention the controller's built-in speaker. Apparently, it's used for some dialogue elements, making whispered warnings and ragged breath sound eerily close, like it's right there in your hand.
Whoa, that's another layer of immersion, bringing the sound closer.
Definitely. And the music. The review praises the re-recorded orchestral score, says it shifts really well from somber introspection and quiet moments to all-out warpath when the fighting starts.
So it adapts dynamically.
It seems like it, yeah. The reviewer even described leaning forward, heart-pounding as the music built up. It clearly had a strong effect on them.
So visuals, gameplay feel, audio, all sounding pretty enhanced. What about the multiplayer side? Huge for Gears fans.
Yeah, the review makes sure to cover that. Fans should be happy the classic modes are back. Team Deathmatch, King of the Hill, and of course, Horde mode.
The essentials. How's the online experience?
According to this review, matchmaking has been improved, and the server stability on PSN PlayStation Network was robust. That's crucial for multiplayer.
Any extras mentioned, like launch bonuses?
Yeah, they noted some pre-launch freebies were offered, like new maps and character skins. Always nice to have.
Okay. Now, one thing that was big in the original Gears was playing together on the couch. Split-screen co-op. Was that included at launch on PS5?
Ah, good question. The review says it wasn't there initially, which might disappoint some fans.
Oh, but is there a but?
There is a but. Importantly, the review mentions an update slated for later this year, specifically promising to add split screen back in, so that local camaraderie, as they call it, is planned.
Okay, that's good to hear it's coming. Now, you mentioned minor issues earlier. The review called them shadows. What exactly were they?
Just a couple of technical things, really. They saw a few environments where textures would pop in if you were sprinting quickly, suddenly appearing or sharpening up.
Right, texture pop in. Annoying, but common sometimes.
And also some rare instances of enemies clipping through cover, like their arm might stick through a wall for a second.
Okay, graphical glitches. How serious did the reviewer make these sound?
Not serious at all, really. They specifically called them fleeting and stressed they were far outweighed by the game's many triumphs.
Oh, imperfections, but not major flaws.
Exactly. The review frames them almost like little reminders, ghosts of the original's rough edges, rather than problems with the remake itself. Context is everything there.
Gotcha. So putting it all together then, after looking at the graphics, the sound, the gameplay, the DualSense features, the multiplayer, what was the final word? The reviewer's ultimate verdict on this PS5 version.
They really brought it back to that initial idea. They said the game stands as a testament to how to do a modern remake properly.
High praise. What defined properly for them?
It was that balance. It manages to, quote, honor the spirit of the original, keeping what made it great, while also fully embracing the technological leaps of the current generation, like the PS5's capabilities.
The best of both worlds, essentially.
Yeah. They called it a potent mix of visceral action, compelling narrative, and cutting-edge presentation. Very positive.
Any final concluding remarks from the review?
Just to hammer it home, they called it one of the strongest exclusive titles on PlayStation 5 this year, and ultimately an unmissable journey.
Okay, so wrapping up our deep dive into this one review, it paints a picture of Gears of War, reloaded on PS5 as, well, a real success. It seems to smartly use the new Tech UE5, the DualSense, to genuinely enhance the experience across the board. Story feels deeper, gameplay feels more tactile, visuals and audio are upgraded.
Right, and all while keeping that core Gears DNA intact. The minor technical issues mentioned seem pretty insignificant in the grand scheme of things, according to this particular reviewer.
So, thinking about this, what does this review suggest to you, the listener, about the potential for remakes, how they can maybe go beyond just a visual polish?
And maybe mull this over too, drawing just from what we've discussed from the review. How does using those specific new console features, like the adaptive triggers giving weapons different weight or the controller speaker bringing sounds closer, how does that actually change, maybe even deepen your physical connection to a game world you thought you knew?